Hey guys, it's Sagar, and in this video, let us find out where the dual cameras on the iPhone 12 mini stand in comparison to the triple cameras and the LiDAR sensor on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Now 12 mini is the most affordable 12 series iPhones this year, and the 12 Pro Max lies on the other end of that spectrum. iPhone 12 Pro Max obviously has the best set of cameras on any iPhone yet, but since it costs a lot, not everyone can afford it. Many people just want to get the iPhone 12 mini because of its price, and they just want to know how good or bad the cameras are compared to the iPhone 12 Pro Max. This video is going to help you figure that out. And since the 12 mini and the 12 have exact same cameras, this video also works for someone who is trying to decide between the iPhone 12 and 12 Pro Max based on their cameras. I have had these phones right from their launch day, so in the last 2.5 months, I was able to take a ton of images with them in various lighting conditions, out of which, in this video, we are going to look at and compare over 85 image and video samples, so that should give you a fairly good idea of the cameras on both these phones. I have also uploaded individual camera reviews of both these phones, so if you guys want to check out some more image and video samples from them, you guys should check those videos out. Before we get to the image and video samples, let us check out the cameras that we are working with. If you want to skip over this information, you can head over straight to the image and video samples from the chapters in the timeline of this video. Let us start by checking out the cameras on the iPhone 12 mini. It gets only two cameras at the back, both of which have a 12 megapixel sensor. The main camera gets f1.6 aperture, 26mm lens and the traditional optical image stabilization. Secondary camera gets f2.4 aperture and a 13mm ultra-wide angle lens. iPhone 12 Pro Max has three 12 megapixel cameras on its back. Primary one gets a 47% larger sensor compared to the main camera of the iPhone 12, 12 mini and the iPhone 12 Pro. It also gets f1.6 aperture, 26mm lens and a new sensor shift optical image stabilization technology. Secondary wide camera is same as on the other 12 series phones. It gets f2.4 aperture and a 13mm ultra wide angle lens. Third camera gets f2.2 aperture, optical image stabilization and 65mm telephoto lens, which gives it a 2.5x optical zoom compared to the primary camera. On the Pro models, you also get the LiDAR sensor, which helps these phones create a depth map of the scene in front of them. This helps them take better portrait and low light shots. At the front, both of them get the same 12 megapixel true depth camera system with f2.2 aperture and 23mm wide lens. With these specifications out of the way, let us now check out the image and video samples from both these phones, starting with the bright daytime ones. Now, although main camera on the 12 Pro Max has a much bigger sensor compared to the 12 mini, we don't see any major difference in the detail level of these images. That tells us how good the main camera on the 12 mini is. Now, even as I zoom in 2 to 3 times on these images, it is really hard to find any difference in their detail levels. In some of the images like this, which pack in a lot of information, 12 Pro Max's images show a bit more details in the dense trees. But for most of the other daytime shots, you won't find any noticeable difference between these images. So while on paper, main camera on the 12 Pro Max definitely looks to be the better one, but this is not being reflected in its images as we compare them side by side with the ones from the iPhone 12 mini. Colors in the images from both these phones are exactly identical. This is because both of them have the same processor and the image processing pipeline. So once the images are captured by the sensor, that information goes through all the same computations and the resulting images have a very similar look. These images are slightly more saturated than the actual scene, not so much that they won't look good. Both these phones just add a bit of warmth and pop to the colors to make them look more pleasing. Although a bit saturated, I like the way these colors look from both the phones. Coming to the HDR shots. Again, both these phones use the same smart HDR3 algorithms to get the most dynamic range out of any scene, and the resulting images are also same from both. Better sensor on the 12 Pro Max isn't helping it get ahead of the 12 mini in any of these situations. Honestly, these images look so similar that if I hadn't taken a lot of care labeling and sorting them out in different folders, even I wouldn't be able to tell which one of these is from which phones. All of this is working in favor of the iPhone 12 mini. Moving on to the close-up shots. This is the part where I noticed a difference between these two cameras, and surprisingly, the difference is in favor of the iPhone 12 mini. While these shots are looking really good from both these phones, the minimum focusing distance is much better on the iPhone 12 mini. Whereas on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you will have to move a few centimeters or sometimes even a few inches away from your subject for it to be in focus. This might not be a big issue for everyone, but as someone who likes to take a lot of close-up shots by getting as close to the subject as possible, it does get a bit annoying after some time. Other than that, close-up shots from both these phones look excellent. Subjects are in perfect sharp focus and the background gets a very nice optical blur. Since the image sensor is bigger on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, background blur in its close-up shots looks a bit more creamy. But you will only notice this if you are comparing these images side by side. Now all these images were from the main cameras on both these phones, and now here is how much more of the scene the wide lens on both these phones will let you get in the shot. Both these phones have the exact same wide angle cameras. So after being captured by the same sensor and going through the exact same image processing pipeline, these ultra wide images from both the phones again look exactly same, at least to my eyes. Rather than the slightly different framing of these shots, if you guys could spot any difference between these images, please let me know in the comments. Now as I told you before, 12 Pro Max gets the 2.5x telephoto lens which the iPhone 12 mini doesn't, and like you can see in these images, you can get much closer to your subject with that lens. I'm not sure how often you need to zoom in on any subject like this, but when you do, it is nice to know that on the 12 Pro Max you have a dedicated camera to do so. In the past year, I have used the wide and normal lens much more because those lenses let me show the scale of things. So I'm fine with having just two cameras on the iPhone 12 mini. And when you want to, you can digitally zoom in on the images 2.5 times. Here are 2.5 times digitally zoomed shots from the 12 mini compared to the 2.5x optically zoomed in shots from the 12 Pro Max. In these bright lighting conditions, looking at these images without zooming in further, could you really tell the difference? Maybe you can if you pixel peep on these images, but otherwise, I feel the digitally zoomed in shots from the 12 mini are looking just as good as the optically zoomed in ones from the 12 Pro Max. Now if you plan on zooming in beyond this point, 12 Pro Max with a dedicated telephoto lens will produce much sharper images. With that, let us move on to the portrait shots. This is where we might see some difference between these images, as the LiDAR sensor on the 12 Pro Max will help it make a depth map of the scene which should result in better edge detection. The difference is very subtle, but the 12 Pro Max has better edge detection around glasses, ear and hair compared to the 12 mini. Again, this is something that you might only notice if you compare these images side by side, otherwise this can be easily overlooked. Rather than the slight better edge detection from the 12 Pro Max, both these portrait shots are looking excellent. Main subject is in perfect sharp focus, skin tones and overall colors look excellent, dynamic range is amazing and the images look really good overall. 12 Pro Max will let you take zoomed in portrait shots with its telephoto lens, and these are the best looking portrait shots that I have seen come out of any smartphone yet. This 65mm focal length compresses the background really nicely and it gives your portrait shots a complete DSLR-like feel. I love taking portrait shots, and these zoomed in portrait shots is one of the main reasons that I am still holding on to this iPhone 12 Pro Max. If it wasn't for these zoomed in portrait shots, I would have already switched to the iPhone 12 mini as my main phone. Coming to low light portraits, ones from the 12 Pro Max seem to be more detailed as the larger sensor on its main camera is able to capture more light and information, resulting in sharper and detailed portrait shots with less noise. Comparing these images side by side, we can definitely see sharper subjects and more details with less noise in the images from the 12 Pro Max. In even lower light, sometimes the iPhone 12 mini really struggled to lock in on the portrait mode. But thanks to the LiDAR sensor, 12 Pro Max was just as quick and accurate as it was in bright daylight. So if you plan on taking a lot of portrait shots indoors or in lower light, consider getting the iPhone 12 Pro Max. The LiDAR sensor also helps the 12 Pro Max better detect the edges of objects. If I zoom in on these shots, you can see that the 12 Pro Max did a better job of detecting the edges in the places where the iPhone 12 mini missed a bit. Again, you might notice this only if you compare these images side by side or if you zoom in a lot on these images. But in the end, edge detection on the 12 Pro Max is definitely better, and if that is important to you, go with the 12 Pro Max. It also allows you to take zoomed in portrait shots of objects as well, which again compresses the background a bit more, giving these images a very different and pleasing look. I'm really surprised with the results of this camera comparison, because bigger sensor is one of the main reasons that I spent the extra money on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and to see that it is not making a big difference in the images that we saw till now, except for the low light portrait shots, is kind of disappointing. Hopefully it does noticeably better as the light goes down. As we move to indoor low light or even indoor daytime situations, both these phones switch to the deep fusion mode. What this mode does is it takes a few long and short exposure shots and combines the best parts of those images to form a much detailed and sharper image. Now as sharp and as detailed as both these images are, we should be seeing sharper images from the iPhone 12 Pro Max because it has the bigger sensor, and that should help it capture more information in the first place compared to the smaller sensor on the iPhone 12 mini. But that is not the case. We barely see any difference in these images even as we zoom in 2 to 3 times. As we start getting into even lower light, I see a few differences in these images. Ones from the 12 Pro Max now are a bit sharper and have lower noise. You can clearly see this as I zoom in on this image. I think lower light is where the 12 mini starts falling a bit behind the Pro Max. Now wide cameras on both these phones also get deep fusion mode, and since these images are from the same cameras from both these phones, they look exactly similar. Apart from slightly more noise and a bit softer edges, I think images from the 12 mini look just as good as the ones from the 12 Pro Max, and most average users won't even notice the extra noise in the 12 mini's images, at least not in these lighting conditions. As the light gets even lower, 12 mini switched to the night mode for these shots, while the 12 Pro Max did not, and it still managed to take such good looking images. If we zoom in on these shots, we see a bit more details in the 12 Pro Max's images, and keep in mind, it did not switch to the night mode for this shot, while the 12 mini did. Same with this one. According to Apple, the bigger sensor and the newer sensor shift optical image stabilization helps the 12 Pro Max's main camera capture 87% more light, and maybe that is the reason it doesn't switch to the night mode unless the light is very low. All that being said, I keep on coming back to the fact that if you don't zoom in a lot, all the images from the iPhone 12 mini are looking just as good as the ones from the iPhone 12 Pro Max, even in these lighting conditions. Even when both cameras end up using night mode, you can barely see any difference between the images from these two phones. And this is a huge compliment for the iPhone 12 mini, because it costs almost half as much as the 12 Pro Max. Now something that this 12 Pro Max gets and the 12 mini doesn't is the ability to shoot Apple ProRAW images. ProRAW is Apple's RAW format, and the images, while being raw, still have some amount of noise reduction and multi-frame adjustment already applied to them, which makes it easier for us to edit them in post. Look at how much more information can be brought back into these images with just a few minutes of basic editing in the Snapseed app on the iPhone itself. I am not very good at editing images, so I'm sure someone who knows what they are doing will be able to extract even more information out of these ProRAW images. If you go for the iPhone 12 mini, even without shooting in RAW, you could push iPhone's images a lot in editing, while JPEGs from other phones start falling apart very soon. But with the ProRAW format on the iPhone 12 Pros, you can take these images to a whole new level. That brings us to the front-facing cameras. As I mentioned before, both the phones have the same 12 megapixel front-facing camera, so all these images look exactly the same. Honestly, these images look so similar that they seem to be taken with the same camera just a few moments apart. Both of them are equally good at taking portrait selfies. And since there is no added assistance from the LiDAR sensor on the 12 Pro Max, edge detection is similar on both the phones. Now the edge detection on both these phones is much better than the front-facing cameras of any of the previous iPhones. This is mainly because of the better image processing pipeline on the A14 processor. So selfie camera wise, both these phones are on the exact same level. Here's a video from the front-facing camera of the iPhone 12 mini and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. You can see how both these phones are handling the overall exposure of the scene, colors, and stabilization when I am walking around with them. Both the phones can shoot 4K videos with extended dynamic range at up to 60 fps and 10-bit Dolby Vision HDR videos. 12 mini can shoot HDR videos at up to 30 fps, while the 12 Pro Max can shoot them at up to 60 fps. Pro Max also gets the new sensor shift optical image stabilization, and the 12 mini gets the more traditional OIS for its lenses. Honestly, you could barely see any difference in normal day-to-day life, and I'm not even sure for when or in which situations the newer sensor shift OIS performs better than the traditional OIS. If you guys know about it, let me know in the comments. Both of them can record 1080p slow motion videos at up to 240 fps. It was interesting that 12 mini struggled a bit to set the focus while taking slow motion videos in very low light, while the 12 Pro Max had no issues locking onto the focus. In the end, 12 Pro Max definitely has a slightly better main and telephoto lens, but the difference is not much. There might be a few third-party apps that take better advantage of the bigger sensor on the 12 Pro Max, but while using the native camera app on both these phones, I don't really think the difference between the images justify the difference between the price of these two phones. So if camera is your main concern, you can go with the iPhone 12 mini and save yourself a bunch of cash. No matter how good the iPhone 12 Pro Max is in terms of cameras, the difference between its and 12 mini's images is very subtle, so I really don't think anyone out there should choose the iPhone 12 Pro Max for its camera performance. Now if you feel the 12 mini is too small, go with the regular iPhone 12. It has a bigger screen and battery than the iPhone 12 mini, and it has the same amazing set of cameras. Now you should only go with the iPhone 12 Pro Max if you absolutely need the bigger display, telephoto lens and the premium build quality. And even then, I really don't think the price premium Apple is asking for is worth it. That being said, as I already have it, I'm going to keep on using the iPhone 12 Pro Max for the next few weeks because I'm going to need its bigger battery in the coming days. But after that, I'm going to be selling it off and start using the iPhone 12 mini as my main phone. After looking at all these images, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about both these phones. And if you had the money to go for either of these phones, which one would you pick and why? Let me know in the comments. If you decide on getting either one of these phones, I will really appreciate if you get them from the affiliate links in the description section. It helps the channel a lot at no extra cost to you. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.